Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And today is a big day in the South African rugby calendar because RASSIE ERASMUS is officially back at work. His ban from any rugby-related activities has officially come to an end, and the South African Director of Rugby can resume his duties at SA Rugby as of today, Monday the 17th of January. However, he is still banned from match day activities for a very long time. Unfortunately, we won't be seeing him at the side of the pitch probably until the end of the year tour. However, he still will be allowed to be involved in the build-up. He'll be allowed to be in a training session, stuff like that. He just can't be at the stadium or phone in by a Zoom call, stuff like that on match days itself. And what will be quite interesting is what will actually happen after this ban, in terms of the structure, in terms of how the relationship works between RASSIE ERASMUS and the rest of the coaching staff. Because they will not be able to sort of have any sort of contact with him on match days. Now, I think the first thing we need to do is make sure we understand that it is always a collaborative effort. It's always a collective effort, and it was becoming far too easy last year where as soon as the Springboks lost and RASSIE wasn't there, it was a case of, well, this coaching staff was hopeless, without RASSIE ERASMUS, they're nothing. Which I don't think is fair given the fact that they managed to get some very good results during the time when RASSIE ERASMUS wasn't part of the team, beating New Zealand in New Zealand, stuff like that. So I think first of all, to get that out of the way, I think we need to make sure that we judge the Springboks' performance and the development of the team as a collective effort of all the coaching staff, instead of being very selective about when we give praise to certain people. I think it needs to come to an end. But in terms of RASSIE ERASMUS' now sort of job of the next sort of 18 months, probably the next 2 years almost, it's all about the World Cup at the end of the day, and as Director of Rugby, he needs to ensure that pipeline-wise, everything sort of builds and sort of formulates a method towards winning the World Cup. But obviously as Director of Rugby, it's a lot broader than that. So, what will be quite interesting just to sort of see, if there are going to be any changes, in the women's setup, in the junior setup, stuff like that, as we kind of sort of navigate a very new sort of era for SA Rugby, with our teams obviously playing in the Northern Hemisphere. Things will change quite a lot, the whole rugby calendar, for example, is very different. You've got a very different type of carry cup and stuff like that. At the end of the day, as Director of Rugby, RASSIE ERASMUS is pretty much responsible for all rugby-related activities in South Africa. So he'll definitely have a say in what's happening in the carry cup, what's happening with junior setups and stuff like that, even to a certain degree the seven setups. Probably to a lesser extent, I think those structures are so strong, you can pretty much just leave them to do what they need to do, and they will produce the results because they just always do. But we are now in a very interesting period, especially, with the idea, we did in the video earlier, the fact that Springboks might not have the overseas-based players for the end of the year tour match against England because it falls outside the test window. And this big balancing act between how do we ensure that we, can continue growing as a side and perfecting as a side ahead of the World Cup, as well as how do we bring in the next generation of Springboks and start, just start sort of settling them into the squad, start integrating them into various squads, into the match day, and into the Springbok culture and what the long-term future is. And I think the biggest, for me, one of the most exciting parts of this year is the idea of an SAA tour, which could see, I think at this stage, 2 matches. I'm hoping we're going to get a 3-match series, which will hopefully see the next generation of Springboks taking on a French Barbarian side or something similar. And that will allow, for example, a whole bunch of new players. I'm hoping we go with a whole bunch of players who are relatively uncapped or pretty young players. You can start sort of seeing the next generation. It'll be interesting to sort of see who will coach the side, whether they'll do it internally, whether they want to sort of start seeing what some of the other coaches in and around the country can do. Depending on the off-season, are we looking at maybe sort of bringing somebody in, a previous South African coach to take them? Do we want to start getting other coaches and stuff, involved in the setup? Is there a long-term future? Is Jacques and RASSIE ERASMUS taking us to the 2027 World Cup? And if they're not, what's the succession plan at the moment? I think SA Rugby will largely back them as long as they get to sort of semi-finals in the World Cup. I don't think that they'll necessarily be fired if they don't win a World Cup. I don't think it gets as simple as that. But if they do want to step down after that, what's the succession plan? Because I think the biggest issue in the past is a lack of continuity and a sort of a restart, within each coaching area, within each sort of segment. And the best teams are the ones that where there's continuity, where there's a plan. There always needs to be a plan. And that's the one thing that has been so good about the RASSIE ERASMUS era, is that there's always been a plan. There's always been a long-term plan. There's always, every last sort of detail is thought about and and debated and sort of fine-tuned, so that everything, as long as everything runs smoothly, there's a pretty clear path as to where we will walk within SA Rugby. So obviously quite a while until we will see a Springbok squad and we see the Springbok start. But the good news is our director of rugby is back. Had a lot to do on Twitter, and I think he's just galvanized a lot of the South African support and has become quite a little bit of a sort of an A-list celebrity in many ways, showing a very different side of him. And I think what he's done has been quite clever in terms of getting a lot of people onto his side and sort of away from World Rugby. So I think that he's got a lot of support, and I think that it'll be interesting to see if World Rugby are willing and brave enough to take him on again. But yeah, let me know what you think about the whole situation down in the comments below. Please do smash like on the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.